have to really be coming from a place of what value have you brought for the company. Don't do it from a perspective of, oh, I need to pay my mortgage.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got kids. You know,
Be a bit more objective.
Yeah,
about
it's you've got to be very, and this is what I try and do with my clients, right?
Hey there, Instant fam. Welcome to another episode of the Instant podcast. I'm your host, Tolu, and as always, I'm delighted to be bringing you a conversation that is packed with value, tips for personal and professional growth, and real insights from real people. Well, this episode is a very special one because we have in the studio the go-to content creator for all things finance and business. It's a real honor to have the founder of Savvy Wallet, Ato, with me in the studio today. Welcome to Instem, Ato.
Thank you. Look, that's very kind of you to say that, like I'm the go-to platform. I really, really appreciate it. I'm really looking forward to today's conversation. And
Yes.
thank you for inviting me as well.
It's great to have you on board. As you guys know, Ato has spoken to some of the brightest minds in business and finance. So today's episode is going to be all about leveling up our financial game. We are going to be unpacking some of the best tips and tricks to boosting our earnings, to building good financial habits and more. Go and grab your notepad because there are going to be lots of notes to take away from this episode. Right. Okay. Let's delve into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it.
I would normally start with an icebreaker question.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, my icebreaker question for you is focused on money.
Okay, cool.
So it's a kind of fun, lighthearted question
right,
to
awesome.
start with. Mm-hmm. So it's a would you rather start question. Would you rather get $1 million straight away, or would you rather get $100,000 every year for the next 10 years?
That is so tough. Well, 100,000 every year or 1 million?
Immediately.
Immediately.
You get it, yeah.
I think probably the million.
Yeah.
Immediately, because I think I would definitely just invest some of that.
Yeah.
that's what my head would go
I
to,
know.
right? So, for example, maybe I'd invest half of that into the stock market. You know, put it into an ETF or index fund, something that's very well diversified.
Yeah.
And then that probably wouldn't give me 100,000 straight away, but I could probably live off some of that.
Yeah.
And then other 500,000 maybe I'll put into property or maybe other assets, maybe invest into business as well. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I was leaning more towards that option as
Yeah.
well. But I think that probably also conveys like a disciplined personality or person.
Yes,
I think
I agree, yeah.
I can understand why some people might opt for the second option, because if you feel like you're going to spend it on like, frivolous things, then
Yeah,
just,
exactly.
stagger it.
Yeah.
But I was thinking along the lines of getting out, put it in the stock market, and just wait.
Yeah, I mean,
let it work for you.
Exactly,
straight away.
right? Yeah, straight away you've
Awesome.
got 1 million.
Yeah.
You can, I mean, stock market gives, and this is, it's not every year, but the stock market on average, I think over the last 100 years gives about 7%, right? So what's that of a million? What's that? We're testing my maths now,
Like
70,000?
70,000, yeah.
That's a lot,
yeah,
right? So you've
yeah.
almost got the 100K, right?
Definitely.
So, and then that compounds over time. So yeah, I would do the million, and you got more options as
Yeah.
well with the million. But I do agree with you. If you're not disciplined, then you could probably spend that million as well. So
stagger it. Awesome. So moving now on to the more serious question. So alongside running Savvy Wallet, you also have a full-time 9 to 5. You work
Yeah.
in the tech space. And I wondered whether there are any lessons that you know now that you wish you'd learnt earlier on in your career.
Yeah. You know what's interesting, right? I think when I finished my master's, or when I was about to finish my master's, I don't think I had a real idea of what career I was going to go into from a tech perspective. I think it was just scattergun. I was just applying for everything. Business analyst jobs, software engineering jobs. It's called quality insurance, which is basically like a tester jobs. So I didn't really have a great understanding or great idea of what career path I really wanted to go down. So therefore, I didn't really understand what the earnings were for each career path. I think looking now, is a difficult one. I think from an earning perspective, I would say being more technical
Yeah.
definitely boost your earnings way more. Even even if I look at as being a technical BA, you're gonna get more just because that being a specialist, in terms of supply, right? There's a lot less supply. There's
Yeah.
a lot less supply than demand.
Yeah.
So I think for me, I think I should have probably been a bit more strategic
Yeah.
when I came out of uni and really focus on actually, you know what, especially like product management, I do that now, but I should
Yeah.
have done that. I should have focused on that a lot earlier on in my career to say, you know what, I want to go down the product management route. Let me look at entry level product management role and then let me go down that path. Whereas actually I started off as a business analyst, which isn't bad. It's still great. It gave me the opportunity to develop some of those skills and eventually do a product owner role and product management role. But yeah, I think I should have just been a bit more strategic, definitely. And maybe also LinkedIn, we wasn't really using LinkedIn as well when I was graduating. So I've got a mentee and she's great at doing that. She has reached out to a lot of people. And to be
Yeah.
fair, I encourage us that you should just reach out to people. And you want to have an understanding what the career is, you want to have an understanding of earnings, reach out to people. And she's managed to have calls with people. I didn't have that. So I didn't really have any, let's say, any kind of mentors or anything like
Yeah.
that as well. So yeah, I think looking back, that would have probably accelerated my career faster as well. I had to
Yeah.
kind of figure it out. Had to kind of go around the houses a little bit. So yeah.
But you learned from
I
those
learned, yeah,
experiences, and that's
definitely,
important.
yeah.
I think that the comment around being more strategic, I can resonate, and I think so many that resonates with me, and I'm sure so many people, will say the same. I think, the pressure of just landing a graduate job sometimes stops us from being able to
Exactly.
pause and reflect and think, how should I actually approach this? It's a 30, 40-year long career. And it's amazing how we don't take the time to think about it properly. But also, obviously, over the years, you've then built Savvy Wallet. And I don't know whether to call it a side hustle because the output from Savvy Wallet, it may as well be a full-time thing. So would you then say that there was a mentality of going into a 9 to 5 at first to just kind of secure that financial stability, which you think that mentality shifted to being a little less risk averse now? Because I think sometimes maybe we go into something more traditional because it's just less prone to risk.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously over your career you've grown this business, and that may indicate that you're probably slightly less risk averse. So what are your thoughts on
Yeah.
those kind of mindset shifts, I think, that I've observed?
Yeah, it's a good question, to be fair. It's I think I've always wanted to be in business, that's the truth. I've always wanted to be in business. My mum's in business and I think I get a lot of that from her. I've always had that interest, which is why I talk about what I talk about on the podcast. But I would say that there was probably an element of fear, like, procrastination. I mean, starting a business is really, really hard.
Yeah.
So for me, the type of person I am, I'm a very, let's say, independent person.
Right.
So therefore, I'm the type of person that I'm not trying to offend anybody here, but I'm not gonna sit at home and not be earning money.
Yeah, fair enough.
Right? Do you get what I mean? Like,
I
I'm
don't think
that
anyone's taking
person,
any
yeah.
offense, yeah.
And because I'm the eldest, I think I've got that sense of responsibility
Yeah.
where, like, I've got to be out there and earning. So if that means I need to get a 9 to 5 job, I'm gonna do it.
Right.
Right. Whilst if I've got other passions and stuff, I can do that on the side, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you're absolutely right. I think when I was younger, I don't think I was willing to take the risk, which is the wrong way to do it.
Yeah.
And I always tell people who are younger, take the risk now. You're living at home. You
Yeah.
ain't got no bills.
So
Okay, maybe
true.
you're helping parents out,
Yeah.
but you haven't got any kind of responsibility. So why don't you take your risk now,
Yeah.
start a business? I wish I did. I always say I wish I started Savvy Wallet. Maybe I've not been successful because I would have not been maybe as mature, maybe as experienced, but yeah, I think take the risk when you're young, and I didn't. I think I was more comfortable eventually saying, you know what, I've always wanted to start a business. Let me actually now do it.
Yeah.
And there was still some fear. There was still some difficulty around that, and I had to get my support system kind of push me and say, actually, no, I said this is a good idea. Do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say as I've gotten older, I'm probably more comfortable with risk, which is weird because I own a property. Do you know what I mean? I'm married. I ain't got kids yet, but like it's the it's kind of the wrong way, but
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. Do you know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
okay with now saying, okay, let me do what my purpose is.
I think that's really interesting. I think it's important to recognize how times have changed as well. I think perhaps someone wanting or considering starting a business now are probably may feel more empowered than,
Yeah.
so that person may have been like 5 years ago, because it just feels like there are lots more opportunities and there are lots more examples as well. So I think there is that to take
Yeah.
into consideration, but I totally agree. Take the risks when you're younger. I definitely didn't. And well, we learn either way, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's such a great time to be basically starting out your career, because I just think the options are endless.
Yeah.
And I think there's freedom to do more things these days. Okay, so now moving on to the next question. So we conducted a poll on on Instagram recently, and the poll was around compensation within STEM careers. And nearly half of the people who answered said that they felt undercompensated. Now, STEM careers are typically considered high potential, usually in the groups of the better paying jobs. So I wanted to get your thoughts. Is that an indication that in this day and age, you can't survive on one income stream, and you probably need to start considering multiple income streams?
Okay. It's honestly, it's a good question. I've had, and I like that you asked that question from people, because I think the idea is that when you're working in tech, oh, everybody's on six
Yeah.
figures, 150, 160, 200K.
Exactly.
I don't think it's quite like that for everybody. I don't think it's quite like that for somebody who's not that experienced. I think we've definitely, maybe in terms of our conversations, we need to maybe be a bit more clear on
Yeah.
that. I think you can get to the six-figure realm, but I think you have to be somebody who's maybe very specialist, or quite technical,
Right.
or quite senior
Senior, yeah.
experience, right? Or actually consultancy as well can pay, but again, it's going to be the very high, I guess, like, with the big three, right? So
Yeah.
you're talking about Boston Consulting,
Yeah.
etc. And even then, how many hours you work in? So I think a lot of these things, people need to explain the trade-offs.
Yeah.
Yes, you could be doing six figures, but what are you going to be
Yeah.
paying for that? Because you have to think of it from a company's perspective.
Yeah.
If they're going to be paying you six figures, they're going to expect a lot
Yeah.
from you, especially in this day and age. I think a lot of it's changed since COVID. Now, a lot of these companies, me being a consultant, I understand this, they're cost cutting.
Yeah.
Right. So therefore they're checking, okay, what's the value you're bringing? I think before, not to say that they wasn't doing that, but there was they would be lax, let's
Yeah.
say. Now they're not lax. They're
Yeah.
checking everybody, what value you're doing. This is why we've seen the redundancies
Yeah.
happening, because it's like, okay, unfortunately to people that's happened to, they're checking, well, okay, what value am I getting for what I'm paying you? So I mean, the one income thing, I think my stance is I don't think you should rely on one income.
Yeah.
But I remember I did a post about this on my Instagram, and somebody was saying, "Oh, I'm kind of tired of the hustle culture and stuff like that."
Yeah.
And I understand that, I get that. But I think what we were trying to say is more from a perspective of have a safety.
Yeah.
So you don't need more than one income if you have a pot that can kind of, let's say, take care of you if
Yeah.
times go bad, or maybe if times doesn't go bad, you just sort of
Yeah.
like, you know what, I want to take some time off. I want to travel the world. I want to start a business as well. So I think, generally speaking, I think it's good to have more than one income stream if possible, if you can. If not, try to have some kind of, safeguards somewhere. I think it's important to have safeguards, because if you're on one income stream and unfortunately, let's say you potentially lose a job, or let's say the income stream is not as income stream is as much as possible, what happens? So I think it's good to think about that. And there are ways you can kind of slowly build stuff on the side. You can do side hustles, right? We talk about myself doing a side hustle. You know, second jobs. Some people do second jobs. I know people that do second jobs. I know people
I
that
do
do
too.
second jobs on the weekend, right? Nothing that's crazy. Maybe they're working in retail. Maybe they're doing, delivery driving. Maybe they're doing tutoring. There's lots. I think nowadays with the internet and, the advent of Zoom and stuff like that, I think there's more opportunities to definitely bolster your income in a way that's, flexible. But I would say, personally, if you don't have safeguards, I mean, I think everybody should have safeguards.
Yeah.
But I think if you can get a second income stream, it doesn't have to match it. Just something
So,
else.
yeah,
Yeah,
it goes
it's
a long
nice.
way.
It
Yeah.
does. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I love that answer. I think it's a really well balanced answer because you're also not necessarily saying you have to, burn yourself out, but just something that allows you to still be, stable
Yeah.
should the circumstances become a bit more adverse. I love the first point you made around the fact that the way in which you convey STEM tech careers, they're very generalistic. We not we, but just generally it's conveyed that, everyone can go in and earn six figures, but you're right, that's not the case for everyone. And I think those examples that you cited are really important for people to know actually what to expect. So if you want to be in that sort of higher earning bracket, then you want to be being really specialist could really help you, but also like being senior as well. So it's like being patient and waiting to climb up the ladder
Yeah.
to attain those financial goals. I know when I've had these conversations with people, side hustles, I agree, and also doing like, some jobs on the weekend, fair enough, so long as it's within the confines of your main
Yeah.
contract. But I also know that, or what I've noticed also recently is a kind of mass emigration from England to countries like, Dubai, the UAE. And
Yeah.
I wondered what your thoughts were on that. I also
Yeah.
wanted to get your perspectives on job hopping as well.
Okay.
I think, some people have,
Yeah.
purported that to be ways in which you can increase your salary.
Yeah.
So yeah, what are your views?
It's so interesting because the Dubai stuff, I've talked about that on my podcast. It's not even just Dubai.
Yeah.
People are moving all over the place. We
Yeah.
know a lot of people. Like, at least for me, so I've got two of my friends definitely have moved to Dubai in the last 2 years. One of my wife's friends moved to Dubai. We know other people who are planning to move to Dubai. We know somebody that's gone to Canada.
Right. Yeah,
America,
Canada's another hotspot, isn't it?
Yeah, Australia. I know even people in like the finance industry that I've had him on. The episode's not out yet. He's moved to Australia, so
wow.
people are moving all
Yeah.
over the world. I get it. I understand. I understand the appeal of Dubai. Like, imagine the salary you're on right now. You go there and you effectively don't have to pay any tax. I understand
Yeah.
that appeal. However, the conversations I've had with people, yes, it's nice. It's set up in a certain way, so I think you can have a comfortable lifestyle. There's a lot of things done for you, but I think you still do have to work hard.
Yeah.
And I hope people understand that you're not just going to go there and you're lounging on the beach. Like, don't be watching influencers
Yeah.
that are showing you that. That's not, I think, the real lifestyle per se. I think it's a very much a play hard, work hard, play hard kind of
culture.
lifestyle, right? So you're not just going to go there and just be lounging. Yes, the weather's going to be good. Yes, you can go to the beach, but you're still going to work hard for your money.
Yeah.
So I think honestly, the world's our oyster. So if you can, I'm interested in moving. I've always wanted to move to other countries. It's part of my goals. So I think if you can take advantage of moving somewhere else, and you can temporarily, boost your savings a bit, and then come back. I think that's a good idea. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think you should definitely, it will help you grow in some ways as well. So I think that's quite important. To do if you can. I think it's an important thing. And what was the second question that you
It's
asked
about
me?
job hopping. So
Job
like,
hopping, yeah.
every kind of 2 years or even a year and a half now, like, moving jobs, people have found that to be quite an effective way to increase their earnings. What do you think? Are there any, I know that there are some cons because some recruiters will question why are you leaving, and it may make getting or securing future jobs, a little bit more challenging. But saying that, I don't know, people are doing it, and maybe there's a mindset shift as well from the recruiter's perspective.
So for me, my first two jobs, my first job stayed in 2 years, moved on. Second one, 2 years, moved
Wow,
on.
okay.
So I job hop a lot. And my third company, I was about to job hop within 2 years. The only reason why was because of COVID. I was interviewing. Okay. If COVID didn't happen, I would have, I probably would have been there. It would have been so, and that was a way for me to increase my salary quicker. No, because honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you. My second job, what it was so funny, right? It was a weird one. My second one, I was going through promotion, and but at the same time, I had an opportunity. Actually, it was the third one was KPMG, so I don't mind saying because I don't work there no more. So I was going through the interview process with KPMG. They had offered me the job. I was also at the same time going through promotion my second company.
Wow.
Went through the promotion, and I was still feeling bad. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I like this place. I was like, let me wait until see what the pay rise is going to be for, pay rise going to be for the promotion. It was something like 8%. So I was like, yeah, I'm gone. KPMG is paying me, I think, still 10K more
Wow.
than what the promotion was. So
Yeah.
I was like, yeah,
on.
you're just, I think sometimes you can do, it depends on what you're looking for. But for me at that point, I was like, yeah, I want to try and increase my income as fast as possible. So for me, I was like, I'm doing a disservice to myself by staying here
Yeah.
and effectively almost getting underpaid for a similar role. So I think job hopping is good.
Yeah.
But I think you should understand why you're doing it as well,
Yeah.
because I think you can lose out in a way in terms of your network, right? So imagine whenever you start a new company, having to build a brand new
Takes
network,
time. Yeah.
right? You're having to embed yourself. Having to go through probation. It's not just a snap of your
Yeah.
fingers and you're at a new company. So you have to realize that you do lose that network, because when you do stay at a company, yes, although you might not get paid more, that ability to get promoted and get that title is important as
well,
well
yeah.
for your value in the job market. Opportunities as
Yeah.
well is also valuable,
Yeah.
because if people know and like you, it's likely you're going to get opportunities. So you can miss that as you're moving. So I would say that's the con of constantly hopping. It's almost like contractor-ish, right?
Yeah,
You're almost like
exactly.
a
Yeah.
contractor in this
Yeah. So you're
weird.
not feeling sort of fully deeply entrenched into the
Exactly.
culture, into the learning, the
Yeah,
development.
yeah.
Again, I love the fact that your answers are very well balanced. They look at both sides. And I think my key takeaway is first, I find that guys tend to be a bit, and I hope I'm not making a generalization here, but I think it's true to an extent. I think guys are usually a little bit more, attuned to job hopping. And I quite like that mindset to an extent. I think you got to think of yourself.
Yeah.
I think loyalty is important, but don't do yourself a disservice.
100%.
And I think maybe ladies struggle a bit more with it. I mean, I've not moved as frequent as you have, but I've had moments where I felt like, should I, look? Should I see, what my market rate is? And I don't know why, there's just always this constant voice of, oh, you want to stay loyal. But I think things are changing now, to be fair. And I think the economy is getting so much harder that you really you got to think about yourself a bit more. I mean,
Agreed.
loyalty is always important, but you got to think a lot about your goals, your financial security, and But I think that's
what do you want?
Why what do you
wanna
want?
stay?
And exactly like you've said,
Yeah.
if it's not learning and building a network, then maybe
Yeah.
job hopping might be the right. But if you wanted to get that learning, maybe it's better to stay.
Yeah.
Great.
I think staying, you've got, I think the other reasons why I wanted to drop up as well is I didn't want to be stagnant, comfortable, because you can get comfortable,
yeah,
is the truth,
true.
right?
True.
You know, all the familiar faces,
Yeah.
everybody likes you,
Yeah.
but then you stop stretching yourself
Yes.
as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? You kind of do things that are comfortable for
Yeah.
you, right? So you have to be careful of that, because if you get comfortable too long, that's where, especially in this, I don't know what the impacts of AI is going to be like long term. I mean, people have their theories of AI. I mean, we already got ChatGPT. Do you know how crazy ChatGPT is? It's like, even at work, we've got like our own version of it, and even that they're like saying, oh, use. I was getting told the other day, oh, use that for like, thinking about your self-assessment in terms of gaps. That's not something I had 2-3 years ago.
I know.
So that, things like that are, let me not say they're going to make us redundant, because I don't think that will ever happen. Well, not in our immediate future, but I think you have to, my point is that there's always something in the market, and you have to kind of keep attuned to it, and also
Yeah.
make sure that the skills that you have are relevant. A lot of people
Yeah.
on the podcast, that's what they've kind of shared with us, right? And I think it's quite important, because unfortunately, when a redundancy happens, right, it's a very simple process from the company's point of view, right? They're just looking at it as like, okay, these skills, especially as me being a consultant, right? The reason why the companies that I've worked at have gotten rid of people is because it's very easy for them. Well, actually, our clients don't want this role anymore.
Yeah.
Why are we paying for it?
Yeah.
Okay, we get rid of the people
Yeah.
with those skills. It's that simple from their perspective. It seems very inhumane,
Yeah.
but business is business from
Yeah.
their perspective. I don't necessarily agree with that. I
Yeah.
think you should try to upskill people or try and reposition people or retrain people. But the truth of the matter is, from the business perspective, and I don't want to paint all companies with the same brush. I think some companies do that well and will try and businesses, retrain people. But I would like to say that I think on the other side, you also have to have the mindset of they don't have to look after you. You're adult, right?
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
That's the truth, right?
True.
And you have to be mindful of that. And I'm thinking of it. I'm still young, so I don't think it affects me right now. But I have to be thinking in 10, 15 years, let's say when I'm 50, 55, when I'm comfortable, right? When they're looking for, I tell you, that business analyst skill you got.
Exactly.
We got,
It's no longer
we got
relevant.
robots that can do that.
Wow, I think that's such an interesting perspective. And I think I like the long-term thinking. We've got to think that you're right, the technology landscape is evolving so rapidly. So whether you're job hopping or staying within your company, just ensure you're keeping abreast with the relevant skills. That's what's more important actually than, it's that kind of long-term financial security. That's really great. I want to talk briefly on negotiation because I think sometimes I think to myself, if I'd negotiated better, maybe I wouldn't even have to be thinking of side hustles and any of these other, things. I probably would need to. But do you have any tips, be it from your personal experience or from your guests? I think that's a way to kind of, put yourself kind of already forward before even, going into your job. Like, so how can our audience, leverage that skill or even develop that skill to just get more money up front?
Yeah, it's a good point. You know what's crazy? I've been learning more negotiation from my business than from my career because I'm having to do that, right? With like when I'm reaching out to companies or companies are reaching out to me and they're kind of given an offer and whatnot. And it's actually even harder because I almost you don't have anything to compare it to. But I would say that from the career point of view, right? And a lot of my guests that have come on the podcast, they kind of give this tip. I think firstly, it's very important to understand what your value is, right? In the market.
That's
I think have a general perspective of what your value is. And we're fortunate now. We've got platforms like Glassdoor. Glassdoor is very, very good for that. And even you could even be more specific. You can find out the value within your own company. Because let's say, like for me, I'm a senior consultant at my company, right? I can go onto Glassdoor and then check what other senior consultants' salaries are on Glassdoor because other people are there. And then I immediately kind of know, okay, am I below or am I above or am I... Because you have to be very realistic, right? Like let's say you're on 50 and that's the higher end and you're trying to ask for 60 in your current company. Unless you are providing way more value than everybody else. Not to say it's not possible, but it's a conversation that's maybe you're wasting your time having that conversation. So I think really assess your value, and there's a lot of platforms that can help you do that, whether it's widely. I would say widely first, and then narrow it into your own company, right? And you can have... I'm not gonna lie. I have conversations with people that I trust. I've had conversations with salary. In fact, that's what I think made me more ambitious by having conversations with people about, oh, what's your salary? But not just don't ask anybody. It's got to be people that would be willing to tell you openly, will tell you that where you have that relationship. Just don't just be asking your line manager or anything like that, because that would be people in the UK find it impolite, unfortunately. So I'll say, assess your value. And then I think if you really want to go to the negotiating table, and this is what a lot of people say, right? Especially that come on my podcast, you have to really be coming from a place of what value have you brought for the company. Don't do it from a perspective of, oh, I need to pay my mortgage.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got kids.
Be a bit more
Don't.
objective.
Yeah,
About
it's you've got to be very, and this is what I try and do with my clients, right? Like this is the value that we can provide. So just always be thinking when you're. I think I'll say this in a way. When you're on a 9 to 5, I think you're almost tricked into thinking you're not an entrepreneur. You are, but you're like an internal entrepreneur.
I see. Yeah.
Right? Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think, and actually, maybe I should have said that as one of the things that I think I've kind of learned. You're kind of like an internal entrepreneur. A lot of, people and companies, unless they really like you, you've got a good relationship, they're not going to be dragging you, say, oh, you should do this for promotion. Yeah. This is how you get paid more. Yeah. They're not going to do that. You kind of have to seek out the answers yourself. Yeah. So you have to understand, right, from a company's perspective, what's valuable for them and how you're contributing to that value. So for me as a consultant, right, I know I'm chargeable. I know if I'm on client side, I'm getting that company paid. So it's very easy for me to relate between the two. Yeah. Okay, I've been chargeable. This is a ridiculous example, but I've been chargeable 100% of this year.
Yeah.
So therefore, because I've been chargeable 100% of this year, I know I've charged you. I've managed to give you X, right? Yeah. And I know that this is above the average. You want me to be utilized 8%, right? That's my target, and I'm 20% more. So therefore, I feel like I deserve. Right now I'm at the mid end, right? I know in the company, I could be a bit more, and I'm performing at that level, and this is what I brought. So I think if you do it from that perspective, you're gonna be in a stronger negotiating position. You have to have evidence as well, right? Make sure you have written evidence. I think that's very important. Whether that's feedback from people, I would say always try and get feedback from people. Yeah. Or set one-on-ones with people to have feedback with you, where you can write it down, you can record it or whatnot and share it. So you have to really be coming to the table with something tangible. If you don't, it's going to be tough to negotiate. Yeah.
No,
and
this is
value
so useful
all the time. Yeah.
Those are such sound tips. I think, know your value. Do your research. I love those examples that you've cited. Glassdoor. I hadn't actually heard of Widely before, so we'll be linking that in the.
What? Widely?
I think you said Widely. Is it another website? Or...
No.
Oh.
Sorry,
Widely.
Just
Okay. So just Glassdoor.
Indeed is quite good, but Glassdoor's better though.
Oh yeah, I think Glassdoor's
probably the standard. Yeah.
So do your research and just build all the evidence you need to be in a strong negotiating position. I think that's really useful. Yeah. Shifting gears now to entrepreneurship, and I know that you've interviewed like several founders and business owners, and I know that because entrepreneurship is a lot more prevalent in this time, I can imagine there are members of our community who want to build their own businesses. It might not even be full-time, it might be side hustles. So I wanted to ask, what are the key characteristics you've seen across the entrepreneurs that you've interviewed that you think has set them apart, and what general advice or recommendations would you give to anyone listening who wants to build their own business or start something on the side? Yeah,
I would say there's so much I could say on this because obviously I'm a business owner myself and I'm going through it. I would say definitely I think one of the most important things is self-belief. I think you have to be able to believe you can achieve what you need to achieve. That doesn't mean that eventually you don't quit because the results have told you actually this isn't working. I think that's different. I think seeing results, right, and maybe the execution isn't right versus self-belief, those are two different things, right? They are linked, but I think those are two different things. I think self-belief is very, very important because you need that self-belief to be doing that nobody asks you to do, where you're not getting, there's no immediate rewards. There's no short-term rewards for it. So you have to have that self-belief to be like, you know what, I know what I'm doing. I believe in what I'm doing and I'm going to, continue doing it. I would say there's an element of work. I don't think I've come across any entrepreneur that doesn't work hard. They all work hard.
Incredible work ethic.
Yeah. And I think there's this conversation about hard work, smart work. I think it's disingenuous to have that. Yeah, I think it's a very. I think yes, I think you can become smarter over time in terms of building systems. But to say you're going to build a system straight away and I'm just going to lounge at home and nothing, no, you have to put the
That's a good one.
groundwork in.
That's a new perspective.
You have to.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
have to. I don't. There's not one entrepreneur that I've spoken to that say, you know, I just built a system and then we just churn in
yeah, it doesn't-
millions. You know, I think you definitely do have to put in that groundwork from the beginning, and a lot of them have that work ethic, right? And it's likely you're going to be putting in a lot of hours to get things done, right? You're going to have to do things that other people don't necessarily want to do, right?
Yeah.
And you know, we had Amma on the podcast very
One of my
recently.
favorite episodes, by the way.
And she
Love
talks
that.
about
Yeah,
it, right?
yeah.
Like she's making millions, and
Yeah.
she talks about that,
Yeah.
right? That's the real,
Yeah.
like, and we're not going to sugarcoat it. That is what it takes, especially if we have to think of it. If you're self-made, you're putting in very little resources. You're coming in probably very little expertise. How's it gonna?
Could have put in the work.
Have
Like,
to.
there's no two ways about it, right?
Yeah, you know, that's
love
what it is, right? So I think that I'll say definitely self-belief, work ethic. And then I want to think something else. I think you have to kind of have a why. You have to know why you're doing it, right?
I believe in that as well.
I think that's very important because I'm not gonna lie, there are days where you're like, whoa, this is really hard today, or I've had a very tough week, and that's good. You have to be able to go back to that as to what that is. Now, there is this argument of your why. I think some people are under the perspective of your why can't be money. I think your why can be money. I think your why can definitely be money, right? Because let's say, what's if you're living in a certain area and you're like, you know what, like I don't like my upbringing around here is I don't feel like I like living here. I don't feel like, you know, it's a place where I can be productive. I don't feel happy here. There's nothing wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying I want to make X amount because I want to improve my life. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think any of us should dictate somebody's why. Your why can be whatever it is, but just make sure you know what that is, because you're gonna need to lean on that, right? To
Especially
be
on
able
these
to
tough days.
it's very, very important. And then I would say as well, there's that, you can tell, like there's that spark in them that I don't want to quite say passion, but there's that, they've got that X factor about them that, you know, okay, you're gonna go far. Now I've me being in business now and me speaking to a lot of people in business, right? When I say that X factor, they'll do it. A lot of people talk. I gotta be real. A lot of people talk, and I think when you talk too much, you don't do. You just gotta be doing.
I love that.
You just gotta be
I
doing
think that's so
a lot
true.
too.
Yeah.
We talk too much.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying don't have dreams, but I think when people talk too much, I think they're trying to get other people to convince them to do it instead of them. You don't need to convince yourself. I'm not gonna lie. I always say this to people. I don't need to convince them. I'm doing it. I just do it.
Yeah.
You ain't convincing. If you notice, I don't really talk a lot online about what I'm gonna do. I just show
we just see
you
episodes.
You just see it. Yeah.
You know, every Monday. Or it's
That's
Mondays,
it. Yeah,
right?
it's every Monday.
Yeah.
That's it.
No,
You just do it. You got to do it, right? And I think that's where they're different. They are action oriented, right? There's a bias to action.
Yeah.
They do it. They're not just gonna be talking, yapping. Oh yeah, you see, in 5 years I'm gonna be this. They're gonna do it.
Yeah, I
Right?
love
They'll
that.
show you. So
I think amazing tips. I don't even think it's just for entrepreneurs. I think just for anyone who wants to make something of their life, I think they can just, follow those 5 steps. I think 4 or 5 steps that you've mentioned. Amazing. You spoke a bit about work ethic, and you're someone that I consider to have an incredible, maybe even insane
I think
amount of work ethic. So I just wanted to ask you to briefly just show us, what are some of the systems and habits that you've built that allows you to juggle savvy wallet, being a consultant. I'm a consultant. I know how incredibly demanding that is as a career.
Yeah.
And I often use it as an excuse to not, to not release as many episodes.
Yeah.
And all the other ventures. Like, what are some of the habits and systems you've built to help you manage all of these different things?
Yeah. You know what? The system thing, I'll be very honest with you, I'm still figuring that out.
Right.
I'm still figuring that out in terms of systems. Well, you know what? I've got some systems in terms of, I know I've got my schedule for my podcast, right? I know that I have, in terms of, let's say, I've got a backlog of episodes just in case there's some weeks where I know guests are, let's say, for example, October, right? I had to do like 4 episodes in a week, right? Because everybody's availability was at the end, right?
Yeah.
So because I had a backlog, it meant that I didn't need to be stressed or,
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I've kind of developed, and I'm actually trying to increase that backlog even further. So therefore, in terms of my schedule, is a lot more flexible in terms of people's timings, my timings. So that's one thing in terms of, like, I think I understood. I think when I started doing the podcast, I think I understood, and I've understood over time that actually I need a very big backlog to be able to do that.
Yeah.
In terms of other systems, I would say that I've realized about myself that, and this is a learning that I'm learning, to segregate the two. I think you just have to carve out time, right? So most of my stuff is in the evenings and weekends, right? Which means that, like, I don't have weekends. That's the truth. However, I think by doing that, that's obviously enabled me to be consistent. But it's also, in the future, I'm going to be able to get my weekends back because I put in all that effort and time
it's like an investment.
in the evenings. Yeah. So the mistakes I have made, and I'm trying to give two sides of it, is that the mistakes I've made is sometimes maybe around lunch, you might try and squeeze things. It's hard because of context switching. Yeah. I think what really works for me is I do my 9 to 5. Yeah. Maybe in the morning before, I do whatever I need to do. And then the evening after work, I'm more productive than switching in between and doing. Like, it doesn't work for me personally. I think if you can carve out a bit of time and to get yourself motivated, what I do to get myself motivated is I'll try and set a goal for myself. I'm very goal oriented, right? I realize, right? So if I know, for example, my episode's coming out on a Monday. Yeah. And I'm doing it let's say I'm doing it on Sunday, I'm way more motivated. Okay, so setting myself goals, daily goals helps. Other things I do is I'm trying to get better at doing this. I only set myself 1 or 2 tasks a day. I used to do like the 10, I try and tick off 10, 12 a day. It's overwhelming, And then the other thing is, it's not quite a system, but try to be sustainable. Whatever you do, sustainable. So for me, I knew, okay, I can do 1 podcast a week, that's fine, and I could do maybe 2 clips a week, that's okay. But before that, I used to do content of myself, and I became unsustainable and I burnt out. So I had to figure out something that was way more sustainable for me. So try to build a system that's sustainable, where you can be consistent. Consistency is what's gonna get you there. Right, you have to think this kind of stuff, right? Like, especially if you look at my podcast, I feel it's like trying to push a boulder up a hill, right? And you probably heard this term, but that is really what it's like, right? And not that you're just only pushing up, you're trying to push it up a hill so you can take it down the other side, right? That's what it's like. It takes a lot of effort, and then eventually it gets easier as you go over time. So
I love those tips, and I find that when I speak to really extremely productive people, they usually point me back to the basics. What you've mentioned: great scheduling, great time management, segmenting your time in a way that makes sense, as opposed to constantly task shifting. And also, I think the goals are important. It kind of goes back to the point you made around knowing your why. So those are great tips that I believe in them, but you've kind of further reinforced them. Moving on to the last question now. So this is entirely about Savvy Wallet and
Okay.
what we can expect to see, what exciting projects
Yeah.
or guests or anything else if you got in the works.
Yeah, yeah, sure, yeah. So I'll definitely want to do a live next year. I've been saying that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
definitely want
awesome.
to do that. So that is something I'm working on. I'm trying to just get a gauge of how many people are interested in it. So I'm asking how many people are interested. To be fair, a lot of people tried to pressure me. Not the community, but I had some people in the background say, we could do it here,
Yeah.
we could do it here, and stuff like that." And I was like, I had to just kind of say, you know what, no, let me finish off the year strong. Let me plan for next year. So that's live. I have got interesting guests. So I like to keep it a surprise, but
Okay,
I
it's
do.
fine.
But I'll
Okay.
say I'll give an idea of who I haven't recorded with them, but it's
Yeah.
coming up soon. So one is we got a few entrepreneurs coming on.
Exciting.
One is in the bridal sector, very, very,
Oh,
very
I think I know
successful.
it.
Yeah, very,
Who
very
you're speaking
successful.
about.
So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that conversation. I
Okay.
think that's going to be a great conversation. So
Yeah.
that's coming up. To be
I'm
fair, I'm excited for
excited.
all of my
Everyone.
guests.
Yeah.
So we've got that one, and then we've got a few conversations coming about. We have one where it's with a neuropsychologist,
Oh,
and it's
wow.
that's going to be talking about how can we develop habits, like good habits in 2025 and actually achieve them. But she's talking from the perspective of being a psychologist. So this
Yes.
neuropsychologist is a new field, and there's not many of them. So it's talking about. So we got
That
a
would
lot
be
of
really
we got a lot of interesting
interesting. Oh,
conversations. Yeah,
it's
I want to
exciting.
try and have more conversations with people from. Actually, we've got one scheduled, someone from the US, got somebody coming from
Amazing.
Ghana.
Good
So
international.
we're
I
trying
love
to
that.
go international,
Yeah.
try to broaden,
Yeah.
you know, make it a bit more global, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So we got a
Definitely.
lot in the works, but for me, it's the live. I really want to do that for the community. I think it's going to be fun, and
That
it's
is going
nice
to
to
be
meet people as
exciting.
well, right? And just have the
Yeah.
experience, in
Definitely.
person. So
Oh,
yeah,
sounds super
yeah.
exciting. I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Honestly, it's been an absolute honor to have you here. I've learned so much, and I feel like we've only tapped into a fraction of your knowledge. So hopefully, we can have you back
Yeah,
to
definitely. Yeah,
continue the
definitely.
conversation. I'm sure you guys have, taken a lot out of this conversation as well. Thank you so much for sticking by. Make sure you share your key takeaways in the comments. Make sure you follow Atto's mailing list as well. Make sure we'll drop the link there so you can get this, the advice and the tips on a more regular basis. Thank you. And until the next episode, bye.